only the constant murmur of the water hitting against 980 tons of naval steel that moves slowly, very slowly.
Inside the Combat Information Center of the cruiser USS Robert Smalls, 18 screens project real-time data.
An officer of the watch observes the digital nautical chart, the red line marking the entrance to the Strait of Hormuz.
Is less than 40 nautical miles away. 40 miles. In any other moment in history, that would be
40 miles. In any other moment of history, that would be barely 2 hours of routine navigation.
But tonight, those 40 miles represent the most dangerous stretch of water on the planet. Because beneath that dark surface, at some point between 20 and 60 meters deep,
there are mines. No one knows how many. No one knows exactly where.
But they are there, and the mission tonight is to find them.
Finding them before we continue, I want to ask you a question.
From what country and what city are you watching this? Let me know in the comments.
And if this content grabs you, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button and activate the bell.
What's coming is long, it's dense, and it's worth it. Let's get to what matters.
To understand what a United States Navy cruiser is doing, sailing in total darkness toward a mined strait,
one must go back barely 3 weeks, on February 28th, 2026.
A coalition led by the United States and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury.
It was a massive, coordinated attack directed against Iranian military infrastructure, air bases, and command centers. According to intelligence sources, the main objective was to decapitate the regime's leadership.
The ruling figure was reported dead in the attack.
Iran's response was ballistic missiles against U.S. bases in the region.
Drones against Israeli territory. Anti-ship missile attacks against maritime traffic in the Persian Gulf.
But the true retaliation did not come through the air. It came through the water. The new supreme leader,
Son of the previous leader, issued a direct order. Close the Strait of Hormuz. Not with ships.
Naval mines. Thousands of them. Iran possesses between 5,000 and 6,000 mines of different types. Contact mines, magnetic influence mines, bottom mines that rest on the seabed and wait to detect a ship's acoustic signature.
Waiting to detect the acoustic signature of a vessel. And the most dangerous of all, the EM-52, Chinese-made rocket mines that remain motionless on the bottom until a sensor activates a thruster that launches them upwards, directly against the hull. You don't need to plant thousands. A few dozen in the right spots will do. The Strait of Hormuz is barely 50 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. The navigable channels for large tankers are even more reduced. We are talking about corridors of barely 15 or 16 kilometers.
Where a supertanker can transit safely. Place 30 mines in those corridors.
And the traffic stops. Not because the ships cannot physically pass, but because no insurer in the world is going to cover that transit.
And without insurance, no ship owner sets sail. That is exactly what happened in mid-March 2026.
Commercial traffic through the strait collapsed to practically zero. More than 300 ships were stranded inside the Persian Gulf.
More than 300 vessels remained stranded inside the Persian Gulf. The heartbeat of global trade was fading.
The price of oil exceeded $100 per barrel. Every second of the closure was costing the world billions.
The Defense Intelligence Agency issued an internal evaluation, estimating that Iran could keep the passage closed.
6 months.
Iran could potentially maintain the closure for up to half a year.
13 million barrels a day, 25% of the world's maritime oil trade, paralyzed. That is the magnitude of the problem.
That is the magnitude of the problem. And that is why tonight the USS Robert Smalls sails toward the mouth of the strait.
But there is something you need to understand before we continue. A Ticonderoga-class cruiser does not clear mines. This is important.
The headlines say that U.S. cruisers are breaking into Hormuz to clear mines, but the operational reality is different.
A Ticonderoga is a surface warship with almost 10,000 tons of displacement. It measures 173 meters in length, carrying 122 vertical launch cells loaded with interceptors.
SM-2, SM-6 interceptors, Tomahawk cruise missiles, and Asher anti-submarine rockets.
Guiding interception missiles and coordinating the defense of an entire task force.
Probably the most capable surface combatant ship in the world.
But it does not carry minesweeping sonar. It does not carry unmanned underwater search vehicles. It does not carry neutralization systems.
Its function here is another, to protect those who do clear mines. Because without the air defense umbrella of an Aegis, they wouldn't survive. Because the ships that are actually going to enter the minefield are much smaller, much slower, and much more vulnerable. The USS Canberra, a littoral combat ship, Independence class. Aluminum hull, yes, trimaran design.
Displacement of 3,140 tons. On board, it carries the Countermeasure mission package against mines, the MCM mission package. Advances in silence. The USS Canberra, an Independence-class littoral combat ship.
Aluminum hull, yes, trimaran design. Displacement of 3,140 tons.
On board, it carries the Mine Countermeasures mission package, the MCM mission package. What does that package include? An MH-60S Seahawk helicopter, equipped with the ALMDS system. An airborne laser device capable of detecting floating mines and moored mines near the surface.
It also carries the AMNS system, which deploys a small, disposable unmanned underwater vehicle.
Designed to approach a mine and destroy it. It is a disposable asset, a robotic sacrifice for the fleet.
In addition, the Canberra carries 2 unmanned surface vehicles that can operate remotely from the mothership.
They tow the AN/AQS-20 sonar, a system for side scan and volumetric search.
Capable of detecting bottom mines, moored mines, and those close to the surface. Advanced technology on paper, impressive.
But there is a problem. According to internal reports leaked to Congress, these countermeasure systems are operational barely 30% of the time.
During tests off the coast of California, the unmanned surface vehicles failed repeatedly to detect mines.
Or worse, they detected mines that didn't exist. False positives in a real minefield mean lost hours.
Lost hours investigating ghost contacts while the clock runs and the enemy observes.
And there is another problem. The range of communication between the unmanned vehicle and the mothership is limited.
That forces the Canberra to operate near the minefield, dangerously close.
A 3,000-ton aluminum ship inside or next to a minefield designed to destroy 100,000-ton vessels.
It's a calculated risk, but it's an enormous risk. 4:30 in the morning.
The Robert Smalls reduces speed to 8 knots. In the Combat Information Center.
The tactical officer confirms the position. 26 degrees 34 north, 56 degrees 15 east. Entrance to the western corridor of the Strait of Hormuz. To starboard, invisible in the darkness but perfectly visible on the radar, the massive silhouette of Keshem Island.
the largest island in the Persian Gulf, and the main fortress of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard in the Strait.
From its shores, Noor missiles with a 120-kilometer range or Qadir missiles that reach 300 can be launched.
Every meter the Robert Smalls advances east, it enters more deeply into the range of those coastal batteries. And the crew knows it.
On the flight deck of the Canberra, the technicians are already working, preparing the MH-60S for a mine detection mission. Repairing this equipment requires approximately 6 hours of calibration and system configuration.
But that preparation began before nightfall. Now the rotors are spinning. The pilot confirms systems are operational. The ALMDS operator verifies the laser alignment. At 5 in the morning, the Seahawk takes off.
It flies low, very low, barely 30 meters above the water. The laser system begins to sweep the surface.
The laser system begins to sweep the surface in search of metallic objects or irregular shapes just below.
And here appears the first real obstacle. The waters of the Strait of Hormuz are turbid, with suspended sediment and cross currents. The system was designed for clear waters. In these conditions, its effectiveness is significantly degraded. The operator knows it, the pilot knows it.
5:22 in the morning, the first contact. The sonar detects an object on the bottom.
Depth 27 meters. Cylindrical shape, dimensions consistent with a bottom mine.
And here we pause. ALMDS system was designed to function in relatively clear waters. In these conditions, its effectiveness is significantly degraded.
The operator knows it, the pilot knows it, the commander of the Canberra knows it. But there is no alternative.
First contact. The sonar of the unmanned surface vehicle detects an object.
Operating 100 meters ahead of the Canberra, the sonar detects a shape on the bottom at a depth of 27 meters.
Cylindrical shape, dimensions consistent with a bottom mine. The first confirmation of the Iranian minefield. Cylindrical shape, dimensions consistent with a bottom mine. And we pause.
In the Canberra Operations Center, 3 analysts study the acoustic image. The resolution is not perfect.
Protocol requires verification before neutralization. A second unmanned vehicle with a camera is deployed for visual inspection. It descends to 25 meters. The images are blurry due to the turbidity, but the shape is unmistakable.
It is a bottom mine. Dark casing, no mooring chain. Magnetic influence sensors visible on the top.
The news goes up the chain of command in minutes, from the Canberra to the Robert Smalls.
From the Robert Smalls to the task group in the Gulf of Oman.
From the task group to U.S. Central Command in Tampa, Florida.
The confirmation of a single mine changes the whole equation.
And each one of them can part a tanker in half.
In the Combat Information Center of the Robert Smalls, the commander takes an immediate decision: expand the defensive perimeter.
The Aegis systems are configured in maximum alert mode. The vertical launch cells are loaded and ready.
The electronic warfare operators activate the countermeasure systems. Now comes the most dangerous part.
If Iran detects that the clearing operation has begun, the logical response is to try to stop it.
If you were the Iranian commander on Keshem, observing as enemy ships begin to deactivate your main strategic weapon, what would you do?
Would you launch a direct attack with anti-ship missiles, knowing you face the Aegis system?
Launch a direct attack with anti-ship missiles, or send fast boats at night to reseed mines behind the cleaning force?
Send fast boats at night to resow mines behind the clearing force. Or wait.
Or wait. Let them clean a corridor and then mine it again in a matter of hours? It's a question with no easy answer.
6 in the morning. The sun begins to peak over the horizon, and with the light comes a new variable: visibility. And more importantly, can transmit exact positions to command centers. Iran lost 90% of its missile launch capacity.
And 95% of its attack drones during the first weeks of Operation Epic Fury. But 90% is not 100%.
Mobile launcher systems remain that survived because they were in tunnels when the bombs fell.
And above all, the fast boats remain, thousands of them. Many are simple fiberglass boats with outboard motors, capable of reaching 40 or 50 knots.
Some carry Nasser-1 anti-ship missiles, with a range of 38 kilometers. Others carry mines.
And others simply carry explosives, designed for suicide attacks like boat bombs.
According to reports, Iran retains 80 to 90% of its fleet of small boats and mine layers. At any moment, from any hidden cove, 20, 50, or 100 boats, fast boats can emerge in a... Don't try to destroy the enemy with equivalent force. Saturate their defenses with volume. Attack from multiple vectors simultaneously.
Force their weapon systems, designed to intercept cruise missiles at Mach 0.9, to face dozens of small, fast targets.
Dozens of small, fast targets that sail at water level and get lost in the radar return of the swell.
Lost in the radar return
Return of the swell, 7 o'clock in the morning.
The Seahawk from the Canberra has completed the first sweep.
The Seahawk has completed the first sweep of the Western Corridor. Preliminary results: 4 contacts confirmed as mines.
Result of the first sweep: 4 contacts confirmed as mines. 2 bottom mines at depths between 25 and 30 meters.
1 moored mine at 12 meters depth, anchored to the bottom with a cable.
And 1 floating mine adrift at 3 meters from the surface. 4 mines in a 6-kilometer stretch.
It is a moderate density. Not the worst scenario, but not the best. Because each one needs to be neutralized individually.
The process is methodical. First, visual or acoustic confirmation. Second, classification. Third,
For bottom mines, the AMNS disposable underwater vehicle is deployed from the Seahawk.
The small robot descends, approaching the mine on the seabed. The robot approaches and places an explosive charge next to it. The operator on board the helicopter detonates it remotely.
For moored mines, the procedure is similar, but the cable must be cut first so the mine rises to the surface.
For drifting mines, the safest option is to destroy them with direct fire from the helicopter at a safe distance.
Each neutralization takes between 40 minutes and 2 hours, depending on water conditions, depth, and visibility.
That's just for 6 kilometers of a corridor that has more than 80. The mathematics are implacable.
To clean a single safe corridor would take between 1 and 2 weeks, and that's assuming no remining.
A complete cleaning operation of the strait would require up to 16 ships dedicated to mine warfare. The U.S. Navy has 7. The 4 Avenger-class minesweepers are in Sasebo, Japan. And they aren't just observing with binoculars. Iranian signals intelligence stations are mapping the task force's electronic signature.
They are looking for the frequency gaps in the Aegis radar, searching for the exact moment the shield might flicker.
At 8:15 a.m., the first sign of a physical response. 12 Bogomar speedboats leave the port of Bandar Abbas at 45 knots.
The Robert Smalls detects the movement immediately. On the tactical screens, 12 high-speed surface contacts are labeled hostile pending.
In the strait, the rules of engagement are clear, but the margin for error is 0. Is this an attack, or just a probe to test their nerves?
The 25mm Bushmaster cannons and the Phalanx CIWS systems are manned. Every gunner on the starboard side is locked on a target.
The commander faces the ultimate tactical nightmare. Fire first and risk starting a regional war, or wait and risk his...
Iranian small craft, this United States Navy warship. You are approaching a naval task force in international waters.
No response on Channel 16. No change in heading. At 2,000 yards, the Robert Smalls prepares the final warning, the non-lethal acoustic device.
At this range, the sound is physical. It is a wall of noise designed to induce nausea and disorientation. But the swarm doesn't break. They know the limitations of the technology. By splitting the formation, they force the Robert Smalls to choose a target. They are testing the perimeter.
Next come the optical dazzlers. High-intensity green lasers designed to temporarily blind the boat pilots. 500 yards, the point of no return. In the CIC, the order is given to clear hot for warning shots. The world holds its breath. Battery starboard, mount 22. Warning shots across the lead bow. Execute! A 3-round burst from the 25mm Bushmaster hits the water 50 yards ahead of the lead Bogomar. The message is finally received.
The lead boat veers hard to port. Within seconds, the entire swarm follows suit, breaking the intercept course and moving...
The first confrontation is over, but the mission continues. Under this umbrella of high-tension protection,
While the Robert Smalls keeps the wolves at bay, the Canberra must finish the job. Its mission bay is a hive of activity.
This is the Influence Suite. It's a robotic sled designed to mimic the magnetic and acoustic signature of a 300-meter supertanker.
But there are ghosts in the water that the Aegis can't see. Iranian Ghadir midget submarine.
Deep below the surface, danger awakens. Bridge, TAO. Sonar reports a transient acoustic contact bearing 18.
The last mine is a drifter, bobbing in the current. It's the most unpredictable threat in the corridor.
The Strait of Hormuz, 8:51 a.m. The USS Canberra is in immediate danger.
Helm, hard to port. All engines.
TAO, sonar. Contact 24-4 is confirmed. Screw indicates 2 shafts.
The mine is gone, but the explosion is the starting pistol. The Iranian sub has just received its target core. Vampire! Torpedo in the water! Ace rock away!
Deploy Nixie! Maximum acoustic output! Brake starboard, full evasive!
With the loss of the submarine, the Iranian Coast Command changes tactics. Patience is...
TAO, multiple fast inbound surface contacts. They're breaking the holding pattern. 50 knots, closing from all quadrants. It's a saturation attack. Strike Group Commander, Smalls. We have a massed asymmetric search threat inbound. Danger close. Requesting immediate fixed-wing CAS. Clear the deck.
The USS Robert Smalls is formidable, but a 360-degree swarm requires a different tool. Within minutes,
A supersonic pass at 500 feet. A wall of noise and flares. The message is absolute.
The swarm is broken. The immediate threat is neutralized. But as the adrenaline fades, the harsh reality of the mission sets back in.
Clearing a minefield is not a battle. It is a war of attrition. It is slow, tedious, and...
And for those 2 weeks, the Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed.
The moment the Robert Smalls fired those warning shots, the news hit the global markets. Brent crude doesn't just climb, it violently spikes.
80% of the oil passing through the strait is destined for Asian markets.
And even if the Navy clears a narrow corridor, it doesn't matter. Maritime insurance providers
When the sun sets over the strait, the technological advantage narrows. The bridge shifts to red lighting to preserve the crew's natural night vision.
Radar struggles with small fiberglass boats hidden in the sea swell. The ultimate line of defense becomes the human eye.
But in the Persian Gulf, the ambient heat of the water and the air can blind thermal cameras. A small boat idling its engine is essentially a ghost.
And under the cover of this darkness, the asymmetric swarm changes tactics again.
By day 3, the environment itself becomes a combination of extreme heat, 100% humidity, and corrosive sea.
Helicopters are grounded for emergency maintenance. The underwater drones, designed for short-duration missions, suffer critical hydraulic failures from overuse.
The math finally catches up. The Iranian night drops are reseeding the mines faster than the exhausted crews of the Canberra can neutralize them.
We're bailing water with a sieve. If we don't destroy the launch points, we'll be here until they sink us. Get me the strike group, Admiral. We need to go on the offensive.
Target package Alpha 1 through 6. Quesham Island coastal batteries and staging coves. Batteries released. Fire Tomahawks.
Birds away. Cell 1 through 4, clear. Missiles pitching over, acquiring terrain following altitude.
The BGM-109 Tomahawks drop to sea-skimming altitude. They fly under the radar horizon, using digital scene map.
For the Iranian commanders, the warning comes only seconds before impact. The US Navy has stopped playing defense.
حمله است. دفاع کنید. سریع باشید.
The Tomahawks obliterate the hidden boat ramps, the munition radar sites, the source of the swarm.
The Tomahawks destroyed the coastal boat facilities. But the heavy anti-ship missiles, the Qadr and the Noor, are...
Vampire! Multiple high-speed inbound tracks bearing 045. Sea-skimming profiles. Aegis is tracking. Designating targets.
At 5 miles out, the interceptors find their marks. A wall of shrapnel shreds the incoming cruise missiles.
The cruiser survives. But while the Robert Smalls fights a high-tech missile war, the Canberra has to stop its clearing operations to take evasive action.
The Iranian strategy is working. Every missile launched forces the Canberra to break off its sweep. Every hour lost costs the global economy billions.
14 days is unacceptable, Admiral. The President needs that strait open by the end of the week, or the Asian markets are going to collapse. What do you need?
What the Admiral needs is already arriving. After a grueling transit, the heavy reinforcements from the 7th Fleet
With the Avengers on station, the math finally changes. The clearance rate multiplies by 5. The 14-day time...
On the mainland, the Iranian commanders watch their blockade evaporate.
Basic to contact and magnetic mine.
The EM-52, an advanced, rocket-propelled rising mine. It rests on the deep-sea floor.
It listens. It waits for the specific acoustic signature of a multi-billion-dollar warship's propellers. And when it hears it...
TAO, sonar. The kinetic return directly in our path. It's not passive. It's processing our passive. Idiots.
Helm, all stop. Disengage water jets. Rig ship for ultra quiet. Nobody moves.
The Canberra cuts its engines, drifting silently over the abyss. If the EM-52
they deploy a programmable acoustic drone, broadcasting the exact sonic signature of the Canberra at maximum volume, sending it directly over the kill zone.
The logic gate closes. The mine ignites, packing 600 pounds of explosives.
The EM-52 obliterates the acoustic decoy, a 600-pound warhead designed to break the...
Brace for shock! Damage control, report! Helm, get those water jets back online now! We are not sitting ducks!
The Canberra survives. The trap has been sprung, and the corridor is nearly open. There are only 5 kilometers left, but... Led by EA-18G Growlers, their mission is simple. Blind every Iranian coastal radar.
The electronic attack is absolute!
In the command bunkers of Kesham Island, the radar screens communications are jammed. Targeting telemetry is severed.
Smalls, Canberra.
We are passing waypoint Zulu. Final sweep is running clear. Magnetic and acoustic cables report negative contacts.
At 10:15 a.m. on day 7, the USS Canberra crosses the final coordinate of...
Signal the Lincoln and CENTCOM. The western corridor is green. Bring the merchants through. The corridor was open, and the merchants were safe.
They move in a strict, single-file convoy. The Robert Smalls takes the vanguard, while Arleigh Burke-class...
The cleared corridor is only 2 miles wide. A 300-meter VLCC needs miles just to stop, and can...
The EA-18G Growlers have blinded the Iranian radar networks.
With their radars blinded, the Iranian coastal guards revert to World War II tactics. They use optical...
Hard to port! Give me maximum revolutions! We are taking fire, I repeat, we are...
Under the cover of the artillery duel, a final wave of fast boats breaks from the coastline. It is a desperate,
Target acquired! Engaging! Engaging! Keep us steady! Braking his approach!
At 14 hours, the lead supertanker clears the eastern edge of the danger zone.
The supertanker bears the scars of the transit. Shrapnel from near-miss artillery and heavy machine gun fire marks its hull.
The moment satellite imagery convoys exit, the global markets react.
But for the U.S. Navy, there is no celebration. A cleared corridor is only clear as long as it is occupied.
1 convoy down, 50 more waiting. We bought the world a few days, but the dust went up.
The most terrifying aspect of the Strait of Hormuz is technological superiority.
Iran doesn't need to match the U.S. Navy ship for ship.
The ultimate weapon in Iran's arsenal isn't a missile. It's the strait itself. It is a geographic chokehold.
We built a global economy optimized for absolute efficiency, relying entirely on just-in-time delivery through a hand...
The 7-day crisis proved that a superpower can force the strait open. But it also proved that a smaller,
The 7-day crisis revealed the ultimate vulnerable variable in modern naval warfare.
We can't risk a 3,000-ton warship and 100 sailors just to hunt a 50-year-old mine. The future of mine countermeasures is entirely unmanned.
Enter the Knife Fish and the Ghost Fleet. Autonomous underwater drones that can scan the seafloor for days at a time.
These robotic sentinels don't need sleep. They don't suffer from heat exhaustion or fear. They will patrol the streets.
The U.S. Navy proved they could force the strait open. But strategically, the damage was already done.
For China, Japan, and India, the 7-day blockade was a terrifying wake-up call. You cannot run a modern...
Ironically, the blockade achieved what decades of climate summits could. The geopolitical map was redrawn. As the world rapidly electrified and localized its power grids,
when the adrenaline finally fades, the true cost of the 7-day gauntlet reveals itself.
Mine warfare inflicts a very specific kind of psychological trauma. It's not the chaotic release of a firefight. It is
They call it acoustic fatigue. The sonar operators who spent 160 hours listening for the faintest whisper of a rising...
We didn't lose a single ship. I didn't have to write a single letter home. But I look at my crew and I know I didn't bring all of them back intact.
the human mind bears the invisible scars, but the strait itself bears the physical ones.
While the Navy patrols the strait, the true battle shifts to New York and Geneva. Emergency sessions are
us. We cannot allow the arteries of global commerce to be weaponized. The mining of international trade.
Resolutions are drafted, sanctions are threatened, but treaties only work between nations that fear economic isolation.
From Tehran's perspective, the tactical loss of the fast boats was a strategic victory.
The diplomats argue over the rules of engagement, but out on the water, the rules haven't changed.
To ensure the strait is never mined again without warning, the battle space expands upward. The physical... Deep inside classified facilities thousands of miles away, intelligence analysts monitor continuous synthetic aperture radar. But surveillance is a two-way street. The invisible war rages in the cyber domain.
The weapons are data and code, but the stakes are just as high. A single missed thermal signature tonight means a...
In the halls of Annapolis, the 7-day blockade immediately becomes the new foundational text.
We spent $1 trillion building a Bluewater fleet designed to fight superpowers in the deep ocean. And we almost lost.
Because the enemy learns too. The asymmetrical forces of the world watched the Strait of Hormuz. They saw the U.S. Navy.
Next time, it won't be manned speedboats that hesitate under fire. It will be 10,000 autonomous explosive drones.
The 7-day war was not a conclusion. It was a terrifying prologue. The opening bell for the automated...
We built a modern civilization on the premise of uninterrupted motion. The collective belief...
But just-in-time delivery means there is absolutely zero slack in the system. A 7-day pause in the strait...
The gears of the modern world are relentless. They demand 80 million barrels of oil every single day, just to keep the lights on and the engines turning.
And a fifth of that lifeblood must pass through a channel so narrow, a handful of sunken ships and rusted mines can block out the sun. The fragility of this system is the defining geopolitical reality of our time, and the burden of...
They are the custodians of the most lethal, complex maritime force ever assembled. Steel Leviathans built...
While the world sleeps, they hunt in the dark, listening for the faint acoustic hum of a rising... They launch the air wings into the fading light, casting a protective shadow over the slow, vulnerable merchants.
It is a perfect, exhausting symbiosis of flesh and steel. A line drawn in the water by a handful.
But force alone does not settle the score. Across the narrow water,
To them, the 7-day clearance was a live-fire laboratory. Every Aegis intercept...
The sea has a long memory. It hides the weapons of the past alongside the traps of the future.
It is a cyclical drama of deterrence. The U.S. Navy provides the shield, while the adversary sharpens the spear. The world's economy depends on this fragile balance. A few miles of water, a handful of ships.
The Strait of Hormuz is not an isolated theater. It is one of several jagged teeth in the gears. Maintaining this shield requires a staggering investment of national treasure, technological genius, and human.
The warships do not sail for glory. They sail to maintain the status quo, to ensure that the horizon...
Because in a world of asymmetric threats and shifting shadows, peace is not merely the absence of war.
Reset the watch. We have the line.
The gauntlet was run. The world kept turning.
And as long as the threat remains, so too must the shield.
A wall of steel, standing between the fragile order of the modern world
And the chaos that waits in the shallows.